Right now is CCXP, a Comic-Con experience in Brazil, and the Fallout TV show is here with an absolutely massive presence. They built an entire vault that you're able to check out. Within are a bunch of props from the show and even some fully explorable locations that have been rebuilt. In addition, some panels were hosted sharing new details on the Fallout TV show and even how this is kind of like a Fallout 5, which of course I'll go over all of that and many of the new details in this video, but we also got the first official trailer for the Fallout TV show that has a ton of secrets and interesting references within. The first look we get from the trailer is just this nice panning shot of Vault 33. This is going to be the vault our main protagonist comes from, but something I think many are missing is just how ridiculously accurate to Fallout 4 this is. Like if you compare this to the game, and even a pretty imperfect comparison location in-game, the piping is almost identical down to those blue pipes off to the side being the same, the brackets have the same two bolts with a divider in the middle design, and the walls are the same even down to including these little half dividers on the ceiling just like they are in game. It's actually insane how many details were included, but at least in this trailer we're not in the vault for that long, as the next shots are around opening the vault door, and this is just moments before disaster. This is Lucy, she's a female vault dweller and is going to be played by Ella Purnell. She's one of the main characters of this show, but we do know that Lucy is out due to some crisis. So something happens that forces her to venture outside of the vault on a rescue mission. In some other promo images we have seen Lucy's dad, he's the Vault 33 overseer, so I wouldn't be shocked if we're getting a very familiar Fallout story where Lucy's venturing out of the vault to save her dad. Perhaps chasing after him, or more likely just getting some kind of medicine while he's locked inside the vault. The people next to Lucy are also notable though. This is very likely to be her brother. He was described in a previous article as just being inquisitive, but as of right now we don't even know his name, as well as the person actually opening the vault door is unknown, but he's not long for this world anyway. As in these following scenes, we can see Lucy escaping, and it does very much so seem like the rest of the vault is against her leaving. Somebody yells for Lucy to stop. Unfortunately, I can't play the audio for most of the trailer due to copyright, but before running outside, we can see Lucy's lip is also bloodied here, and whoever opened the door is now on the ground. And while Lucy's brother was on board at first, it seems like whatever just happened got him cowering with the others. So between getting to the vault door and opening it, something clearly happened here. But what I found even more interesting is how these vault dwellers react to what's going on. They yell for Lucy to stop, but you'll notice one person immediately run off to the side, and the door is actually closing behind Lucy as she's exiting. It doesn't really seem like anyone's trying to physically stop her from leaving, and instead it seems like everyone's biggest fear is the door being open and what may lay outside. Because it has been described that this is the first time Vault 33's door has opened ever. The inhabitants are likely unaware of whatever is going on with the outside world right now, and this vault has been sealed for over 200 years. And you can definitely see that surprise and shock that LA looks so different reflected on Lucy's face here. And all of this is made even funnier by the fact that just minutes earlier, Lucy talked about how living in a vault was only a relatively comfortable life. I don't think she realized just how bad things were on the outside. Here we get a look at Santa Monica with the iconic Santa Monica Pier. There's been lots of speculation that Vault 33 is located right near this location, and we do know that the broader show is going to be taking place in Los Angeles. Santa Monica is just outside of LA. Here you can see someone, likely Lucy, walking around off to the side, and something to note is Santa Monica almost looks like it was reinforced for an invasion. These very much so look like man-made trenches that troops would be stationed in, and that makes a lot of sense. When the bombs dropped, the world was at war, and protecting the west coast of the US would have likely been a major priority. And they honestly did a great job at recreating the vast waste of the west coast. It literally looks like Fallout New Vegas out there, and perhaps even California itself in just a few more years. With Lucy getting scared by a tumbleweed just being the clearest picture of how unprepared she actually is for this adventure. And we get several shots of Lucy just wandering through the wastes alone. I wouldn't be shocked if in the very first episode, there's a lot of focus on her as an explanation for the world. All of what she's encountering is new for her as the character, but it's also going to, of course, be new to us as viewers. So it'll be a natural avenue to explain the world to us through Lucy's curious and concerned eyes. But eventually we do start to meet some other people, like this creepy dude in red. We can see Dogmeat devouring a radroach here, and I do wonder if at this point we are at some kind of settlement, and perhaps have even already met up with the Ghoul, played by Walton Goggins. Earlier today, we also got a variety of character images for each of the major characters in the show, and the Ghoul was always featured near Dogmeat, so perhaps in this scene, the Ghoul is just somewhere off camera. But after Lucy and the Ghoul, the third major character here is Maximus, played by Aaron Moten. They're going to be a Brotherhood of Steel scribe, which is effectively the lowest rank on the Brotherhood totem pole. A lot of times scribes can't even really go into combat. We get these beautiful panning shots of the Brotherhood taking off from a military base, and once again, the vertibird here is almost identical to the one featured in Fallout 4. We can see Maximus himself riding the vertibird along with his buddy in power armor. The power armor used for the show is practical. They actually built these suits, and of course these two are incredibly faithful to the games. And these scenes overall do seem to suggest that the Brotherhood of Steel have gained significant power since we last saw them on the West Coast. The Fallout TV show is the latest piece of Fallout media. It's taking place 9 years after Fallout 4 and 15 years after New Vegas. When we leave off with the West Coast Brotherhood of Steel, they're pushed underground as a result of the losses they took during their ongoing war with the NCR. And while it does appear that this is some kind of underground military base, it definitely seems like the Brotherhood have far more resources and power now, and perhaps even won the war. At the end of Fallout New Vegas, their war is ongoing, but here, clearly the Brotherhood have evolved. We'll see it a bit more later on with some of the other Maximus scenes, but it's described how the show is very much so going to be an ensemble. These three major characters with Lucy, Maximus, and the Ghoul are separated, but eventually will come together. But it really looks like we are going to be getting a healthy amount of content from each of their individual perspectives. And Jonathan Nolan, the executive producer on the show, actually likened this nature of the TV series to the RPG nature of the Fallout games. It's a very different mode of storytelling. One of the things I'm most excited about is telling an ensemble story and it coming as it is from these three perspectives. It was, to me, kind of a brilliant hack for how you present that role-playing game mechanic of the games, which is that you, as the Vault Dweller, can be anyone. They can look like anyone and they can make any choice they want, which is not a luxury you can afford the audience when you're telling them a linear story. And they describe how this also lets you explore not only different environments and areas with each of the different character perspectives, but also their own morality and how they handle the gray areas of the world. So we will get a look at how these three different characters will make different moral choices, just like we would as various different characters in the game world. Next up, we do have a nice montage of all kinds of various scenes. This jukebox that gets somebody plastered on it is definitely interesting just due to where it is. We've really just seen the desert thus far, but this appears to be some kind of vast and lush farmland. We also get a few more looks at Vault 33, first with just a few characters in the vault, but then we have this overview shot. The vault itself looks phenomenal. Their crops seem to be doing incredibly well, but unfortunately the vault is also in complete chaos. And it looks like the regular, fully suited Vault Dwellers are fighting with partially unclothed Vault Dwellers, who seem to be somewhat losing their mind. Several people, perhaps Vault security members, have actually drawn weapons, and right in the center of this scene, you can see that character from the previous shot. And as of right now, we don't really know why this is happening, but there are several potential explanations for what exactly is going on here. To me, it definitely looks unnatural, like this is either an experiment or chems, perhaps this is part of Vault 33's vault experiment, or maybe just some inhabitants got into the chem supply and are now trying to take over. You have to imagine somebody just leaving the vault for the first time in hundreds of years would cause quite a bit of drama for those stuck inside. Here we get a shot of Lucy entering the scavenger town known as Philly. This isn't Philadelphia though. You can actually see the crumbling Los Angeles in the background, and we have seen some set photos of Philly from different angles, and it appears like this is really going to be one of those quintessential Fallout towns, with many comparing it to Megaton. But then we get a more proper look at the Ghoul, played by Walton Goggins. In the show, this character is literally going to be named the Ghoul, and if he looks a bit under-ghoulified, that is intentional. It's described how something happened during his ghoulification, making him slightly less of a ghoul, but really they just wanted you to be able to recognize Walton Goggins. They didn't want to over-ghoulify him and it would just be any old actor. It seems like Walton Goggins is also going to be in Philly, based off the supply sign in the background being the same, and it also looks like he has a lever-action shotgun or rifle on his back, which I know many Fallout fans will be happy about. Here we can see Lucy approaching some settlement with her weapon drawn. This guy has a very interesting outfit. I hope they add this one to Fallout 76 also. Right now in Fallout 76, you could actually claim a Vault 33 vault suit if you'd like to. And I absolutely love the design of Philly overall. It is a bit sad to see it getting so destroyed, but even this little workbench just looks like it's straight out of Fallout. But then cutting to something a bit more notable, we have the eye scene. And I found this one to also be incredibly interesting. We have someone who may be the Vault Overseer with only one central Cyclops eye, and Lucy is sitting across from them talking. Considering we know Lucy's dad is the Vault 33 Overseer, and of course not actually this person, I think this may be Vault 32. From some past set photos, we have seen that there's going to both be a Vault 33 and a Vault 32. And I wouldn't be shocked if perhaps Vault 32's experiment could be some kind of eye procedure or mutation. I wouldn't be shocked if this is quite a bit later in the story and Lucy just entered a another vault. And some other set photos, we have seen Maximus arriving at some place known as Hawthorne Labs. It's a new Vault-Tec subsidiary, so perhaps during the TV show they'll really dive into what kind of medical experiments or mutations Vault-Tec was running in some of these vaults. And I feel like this may be one of the most accurate scenes in the show thus far. This is exactly how accurate the turrets I build at my settlements are. But it also is pretty curious, because once again we are elsewhere. We have what looks like dog meat and a doctor or scientist in some kind of military installation, but it's covered in snow. Considering we're 219 years after the bombs dropping, I can't imagine it's snowing anywhere near Los Angeles, where the rest of the show is taking place. So perhaps this is some kind of flashback scene, or even just a cut to a different part of the United States. Despite most of the show taking place in LA, it definitely seems like we'll have a healthy number of scenes that are in surrounding areas. There's not a ton to break down for this one. I'm guessing this is a scene within the Dairy Fresh plant, and we have a very familiar Fallout moment of entering into an old building and only finding the Mr. Handy still operating. And finally, we have Lucy's dad, the Vault 33 overseer, but I think whatever is happening here is what eventually leads Lucy out into the waste. It definitely looks like he is behind some kind of enclosed area, whether this be a medical bay or perhaps he's escaping the vault right now. But this exchange seems like it's occurring while they're both under duress. Here we have our first good look at Maximus, finding him in the midst of chaos. It seems like he's getting hit by artillery out in the waste with some other members of the Brotherhood of Steel. And you can even see their vertibird taking off in the background. It looks like Maximus is holding the classic 10mm revolver from some of the older Fallout games, while the Brotherhood Knight here has that ugly Fallout 4 assault rifle. And perhaps the most relatable scene yet, we have a bear taking down our power armored knights. I think anyone who's played Fallout 4 in survival mode, and if you haven't, you absolutely should, but you'll almost certainly experience this exact same thing in game. And overall, I'm just really curious to know what's going on here. It seems like we're in a bit of a different locale, at least from where those vertibirds took off from, so perhaps just another part of California or one of the surrounding states. But also, I can't imagine there are many forces out in the waste that can easily beat several fully equipped Brotherhood Knights. So perhaps we are seeing one side of an engagement with the NCR here. And I think this scene may be the biggest reveal yet. We see someone, perhaps Lucy, running to a distant settlement with a briefcase, and this briefcase looks suspiciously like a Gek. The Garden of Eden creation kit is most notably used in Fallout 3 to finish Project Purity and grant clean water to the wastes. But in general, the Garden of Eden creation kit was designed to transform the nuclear wasteland into a flourishing area ripe for settling. So naturally, it would be incredibly powerful in this specific environment. We heard how the core plot of the Fallout TV show is around chasing an artifact that has the potential to radically change the power dynamic in this world, and I wouldn't be shocked if that artifact is this Gek. Or, maybe it's just a briefcase with some random stuff in it. This coastal shot of a creature looks absolutely amazing. It's definitely one of my favorite shots from the trailer, although I think we're finally getting a look at a totally new creature. This thing very closely resembles a gulper from Fallout 4, but the color is wrong, as well as it has these little things that pop up behind its neck that are just completely wrong for a gulper. So I think we're seeing a mutated axolotl, and I didn't even bother to look up how to pronounce that, so it was almost certainly wrong. And inside its mouth it has these horrifying finger-shaped grabbers. Whoever designed this one gets an A+, but for all of the worst reasons possible. And here I suspect we have another look in or around Vault 32. This is going to be another one-eyed person, but for a very different reason. Perhaps this character didn't want to do whatever the procedure that the Vault Overseer previously did and is now rebelling. And it looks like this character is using the Sten gun. This is one of the weapons that appeared in Fallout Tactics. And I think one of the scavengers we saw a bit earlier fighting Walton Goggins was also using the same weapon, but with some different modifications. And then we have this shot. We of course got some still images of this earlier in the week, but this looks absolutely stunning, but it isn't the Pridwin. This is actually going to be known as the Kasawan, another Brotherhood ship that is now on the west coast and likely modeled after the Pridwin. And I think this is the best example of how much more powerful the Brotherhood of Steel is. It seems like they have plenty of manpower, a healthy military force, as well as tons of flying machines. We have heard from interviews how there were going to be pre-war scenes featuring the Ghoul, who is also known as Cooper Howard at this point, and now we're actually seeing one example of them. Here, of course, he's mounting his horse with LA crumbling in the background, and even in this wide shot, we can see what is likely the same horse off to the side galloping away. Cooper Howard has a daughter and a wife. We can see his daughter here, but the fact that the Ghoul is described as a gruesomely scarred rough rider who has a code of honor but also a ruthless streak makes me think that his daughter doesn't make it out of this one alive, and his wife probably doesn't either. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle this character, because of course we know he is at least 219 years old, and more realistically probably like 250, 260 years old. So overall for me, this trailer was absolutely incredible. Some of the CGI, particularly around the ride roach, did look a bit unfinished, but hey, they have quite a few months before the show is coming out and plenty of time to get that sorted. And I think the overall identity of this show just feels perfectly like Fallout. You had violence, a destroyed radioactive world filled with monsters, but also the humor and some of the quirkiness that embodies the Fallout franchise super well. And when talking about the show broadly, the creators describe how they planned this as a Fallout 5. We didn't start from a place of characters from the games. We set things after. We kind of told ourselves this is Fallout 5. This is just another installation and we're starting with fresh snow. And this quote is pretty exciting to me. Thus far, we have seen a lot of the familiar. The trailer is predominantly showing the Brotherhood of Steel as well as vaults to remind us and make it clear that yes, this is Fallout. But I hope as we get more into the show, we see more of how it takes on its own identity. Because it definitely seems like they'll be exploring and playing with a few unique and fun ideas here, or at least things we haven't seen in a little while. I still do have some pretty large lingering questions, like where on earth is the NCR? This whole show is meant to take place in Los Angeles, but we have yet to see a single member of the NCR. Their flag was spotted in one vault with some of the behind the scenes images, but you have to imagine that they would have a major presence all throughout this series unless a lot has changed in the 15 years since Fallout New Vegas. But overall, I think they nailed it. The show looks absolutely phenomenal, and I think it's a Fallout fan's dream. But if this did get you hyped and you're interested in more Fallout content, check out this video with one of the best new Fallout 4 mods that will almost certainly get you to start a new playthrough.